have read several books about the lost boys of South Sudan, but few stories are told about the lost girls who, just like the boys, fled their villages in search of peace. In her debut memoir, What They Meant for Evil, my next guest, Rebecca Deng, a South Sudanese from the Dinka tribe, recounts how the 1983 Civil War stole her childhood innocence, damaged her family units, destroyed her village, and disrupted the development of her nation. In this episode, we will learn about Rebecca's remarkable journey from suffering to a life of hope, healing, faith, and forgiveness. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, I am Imoitinya. Welcome to the series On the Bench. On this show, I'll be bringing to you stories from around the world of ordinary people who, despite their challenges, choose to live extraordinary lives, all of which will be told on the bench. I want you to begin today by sharing with me what's the reality of war. If you had to describe it, how would you describe war to people who have never experienced it before?
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you coming all the way to come and interview me and to hear about the history of the war. What I tell people that have never been through war is that war is devastating, and the damage that war caused take a long time to be reversed, or it can never be reversed. War is an ugly thing. What I tell humanity is that if there's a way to avoid war at all costs, please do. Not only does war affect the physical structure of the country, it also affects the soul of people.
Sudan was one of the first countries in Africa to achieve independence from Britain. Since the colonizers handed power over to the Sudanese government in 1956, the country has only known 11 years of peace. Rebecca says before the war, her village was peaceful. She was physically and spiritually nurtured.
So the life before the war happened was so peaceful. We had our grandmothers, and uncles and aunties. It doesn't matter if they are your immediate family. We call everybody in our village auntie and uncle and aunts, because we were close. And the village, I think, was settled by the clan too. So whoever that you do really call is in your bloodline. So it was a peaceful life. We had 3 meals a day, and like what you see in a movie of Africa being portrayed as always starving children, people don't understand that, yes, there are children that are starving, and why they are starving, there's a reason why they are starving, either to do with war, to do with drought or something like that. But a typical African village that is at peace have all the things that they need. They have the resources. I had 3 meals a day. We have cattle. I grew up on the Nile, close to the Sud, which is the world's largest wetland. And it was a beautiful life. There was nothing I was lacking until the war happened. Until I became a refugee, did I experience sleeping with empty stomach. So war produced that, but before then, I had everything I needed.
Rebecca was just 3 years old when her village was invaded. Her mother, whose face she no longer recalled, was expecting a child at the time. Sadly, she bled to death while giving birth. The war also claimed the life of her beloved father, a commander for the Sudan People Liberation Movement, also known as the SPLM. A group established to defend itself against the persecution from the north. The majority of Rebecca's family, along with millions of others, made the treacherous months-long trek on foot to nearby countries as the attacks from the north became increasingly frequent.
I think the secret of what kept me going is from ages 0 to about 5.5, when my village was attacked. I was brought up knowing my identity, that I'm a South Sudanese girl, I'm a Dinka girl, I'm beautiful, I'm treasured by my family, and they did really show me from ages 0 to 5 what that love means, the protection, the dignity, being told you are beautiful. I didn't see anything on TV that portrayed me as ugly and somebody else beautiful. I was just praised all the time. I was being fed, physically with food, and spiritually being told about where my people come from, that we are the Nilotic people, that, people of the land of the Kuch. And even like when I read the Old Testament, what thing that in the Old Testament I grew up being told to me by my family was necessary. It wasn't necessary opening the Bible, but the practice of like love others like yourself, respect yourself. You are beautiful. You are created in the image of God, the greater being that is above humanity, and love people equally. So think of justice and truth and beauty. I grew up knowing those things. So when a war comes, and because war is ugly, and war tell you that you are nameless now, you don't have, you caseless. You don't have a face anymore. You just become a statistic that like millions of refugees are, but so I had to always go back where I was brought up to count my genealogy to 15. That my name is Rebecca Deng. Well, I'm not just a refugee. I'm not just 89 lost girls came to United States. I am Rebecca Nyanut. I know my name. So those things really helped me. Those early values of being grounded in my culture helped me being who I am today. And so when things happen, like war happened, right? I become a refugee. I was stuck in a refugee camp for 8 years, where some people in affluent countries were just sitting there in the AC and debating, are these people refugees or not? Can they be helped or not? And through when I was just becoming that a number or nameless in a refugee camp, in my mind, I'm thinking like, I might be this now, but I know who I am. And also my people in a refugee camp tried their best during those difficult times to keep empowering us, to tell her that this is who you are. We are here temporarily. We will go back. This is for a short time. And that really helped a lot.
On July 9th, 2011, Rebecca, along with South Sudanese in the country and those around the world, came together to celebrate the birth of a new era, the creation of the world's youngest nation. Independence Day for the Republic of South Sudan, as it is officially called, came 6 years after a peace agreement was signed to end the battle known as Africa's longest war. About 2 million lives were lost, and 4 million people were displaced. Rebecca says to the people living in remote villages, war was foreign.
When you go to the village, when you go to the areas that are not touched by civilization, they don't even understand what the war is all about, because they were never included in the process. They are marginalized. They are people that their voices was never heard. So when I think of war, I really think of war of just few powerful people that are greedy, that just want to make chaos, because war is a profit making for some people. You sell your guns, you sell your food, you sell your services. So the local people understanding of war is that it's a foreign thing.
When the British colonized Sudan, they governed the north and south independently. But before the colonizers granted Sudan its independence in 1956, they united the north and the south, a decision that only created a deeper divide in the country. Rebecca says that economic disparity is one of the reasons for the outbreak of the war.
The war in South Sudan, or Sudan, the cause of it is economic. Most people, when you go online, you will read that it was a religion. The north is Arabs, Muslim background, the south is Christian or traditional believers. That thing play a role, but I feel like the most cause of the war was economically based. Most of resources come from south part of the country, and the north was more educated, so there were a lot of manipulation and discrimination to take the resources from the south to only benefit the north. So in a shortcut, or like in its most basic, I think the war in Sudan have been fought because of economic not everybody in the country is treated equally. Be between the north and south, or even the south when they are by themselves. Not everybody is being treated equally. And same thing with the north when they are by themselves. They have different class and social class, and not everybody being treated the same. And so when the country split, South Sudan, 2011, and become a nation, and from there till now, there's some peace here and there, but they did went back to a civil war of their own. Same thing with North Sudan. South Sudan left, and last year or 2 years ago, there was that Arab uprising happening in Khartoum. So I think the war in its basic thing is a poor governance of resources.
Months of travel led Rebecca and her surviving family members to the Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya. There she spent 8 years in a disease-infested environment. She was later arranged to be married off. But as fate would have it, the resettlement program offered by the U.S. government granted Rebecca and 89 lost girls the opportunity to come to the United States. Rebecca knew this was a second chance at life. But 2 days before she was to leave for the U.S., something horrific happened.
Yeah, the reality of that day was that I'm a 15-year-old girl, and I'm in a closed space where somebody decided to take advantage of me. So I had a choice that day, actually, to make a lot of things. Either I scream and my male family members come out and they attack that person, maybe kill him, and then there's a war. Or I let whatever happened to me happen, thinking that it will just be done there. I have 2 days, I'm gonna come to United States. So at that, I could have screamed and caused that war and people fighting, and then I don't come to the U.S. So those were the things going on my mind, because this was my first encounter with a situation like that. I was never until I was 15, had sexual, so I had a boyfriend, but it was just more like writing messages and letters, like you are my ocean, you are my Lake Tanganyika, I will love you till the end of the, like those, like whatever, yeah, exactly, my Kilimanjaro and all of that, so I had that innocence. And then I didn't even know how to handle the situation, but all I knew was that there was an incident about a girl and people killed themselves. So in that thing, instead of protecting myself, I'm thinking of protecting the community that I am in at that situation. So I didn't scream. It happened. I had 2 days in Kakuma refugee camp. I left. And in my mind, I thought that is done, right? I'm here in the U.S. and few months later, 3-4 months later, we find out I'm pregnant as a result of that.
4 months after Rebecca left Kakuma refugee camp for the United States, she learned of her pregnancy. She was an orphan in a new country with a new language and now had a baby on the way. Rebecca says those days were among the darkest moments of her life. But something remarkable happened the day her daughter, Achol, whom she named after her mother, was placed in her arms.
But then when my baby was born, and that first cry of the baby, and I look at her face, and something in my soul and my brain switched that day, and I say, look, in my mind, because I'm a believer, so I grew up reading the Bible. And they're always like something about Jesus when Jesus was born or something, or they say Jesus' mom is pregnant and they say, can something good come out of Nazareth or something like that? And I just look at the baby and I say, how is it possible something beautiful and good can come out of devastation and suffering? And just looking at the baby face, I fall in love with her.
With the assistance of her new family home, Rebecca was able to complete her high school education. She went on to receive both her bachelor's and master's degree. Now a mother of 3, her daughter Achol, her son Deng, who she named in honor of her late father, and her second girl Leona are her precious gifts. Despite the difficult road, Rebecca greatly valued the gift of her firstborn.
When you open the first page on my book, say this book is dedicated to my firstborn.
Yeah.
Actually, she have teach me about beauty. That something that was traumatic can be so beautiful, and she is beautiful in person. Like when you see her, she's gorgeous, and that's why I say that you have teach me about beauty, about who I am. I had a choice, to turn bitter, to
terminate the baby.
or to terminate the baby, which again, some women can make that choice, and I will never shame them, because you can only do what you are capable to do, and we are given. And that's one thing I don't like, when people say, oh, you choose to have your baby, why are some other women doing abortion? No, we cannot dehumanize people. Their decision is, I make a choice of keeping my baby, and there are consequences that come with that choice. Same thing if somebody chooses to end it, it's their choice and there are consequences. Our job here is not to label people, to shame people, but to just support them in their journey, because it is a hard situation. And again, when that happened to me, the rape case, it's just the same thing as war and trauma. I tell people, two people can go through the same traumatic event and totally have a different result. And so for me, when I see the baby, for some reason, what happened and what I have experienced, it disappeared. And I was able to date again and to laugh again and even getting married. Some people, they might not even get to that situation if something traumatic like that happened to them, to even be around the closest space with a man, because they associate. So we have to respect people's journey and people's experience and meet them where they are.
Rebecca says one thing she learned on her journey is that war never brings healing. What brings healing is honoring the pain, acknowledging its impact, and forgiving those who caused us suffering. It is through forgiveness we liberate ourselves from the people who harmed us.
And that's what I tell people. Forgiveness have nothing to do with the person that offended you, because they might never even say, sorry. And maybe they can be physical there and choose not to say I'm sorry. Or for those who have been through war, maybe the people offended them are not living anymore. Or even if they were not in through war, maybe something happened to them too, and you never. So forgiveness is for you to free your own self, your own soul, and say that I have learned something through that. I will never wish any human being to go through it, but this is my story.
Today, Rebecca is a well-known international speaker and a supporter of girls' education. Reconciliation, healing, peace, and trauma are further themes in her life's work. She shares the desire of many South Sudanese to see South Sudan develop into a democratic nation that takes pride in promoting equality and peace for all its citizens. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time.
I was in Washington, D.C. That time, and I went to Native American Museum, and I came upon a replica. They call it a time ball replica, and it was just a round ball, and it has some beads on it. And then on the description, it says a Native American woman will use a time ball to record her life experience, courtship, bad thing that happened to her or good thing that happened to her. A woman might have one or several time balls that they have meant and decorated to tell the history and life experience. But the most important thing is that when their life ends, they are buried with them. And so, like, if they are buried, if they can choose to tell what those things mean, the nuts or the colors or whatever they make in the time bowl, they can choose to share or they cannot choose to share. But whenever they die, they are buried with them. And so at that point, I just felt a tear in my face, and I say, well, I don't have a time for physical one, but my experience in my mind, in my body, things that in my soul, things that I have experienced are like my time ball, and if I die, they will be buried with me. And then I say, wow, I need to write my story.
Nice.